All right, we're on to the third game of this matchup. Smokes won the first game. They tied a very nice second game. And then in the third game, let me just quote Smokes. Whoops, oh whoops. What was the wrong card? Haha, oh well, chi-chi. Dal played, I think, a very, like, good move on move 7, but, and then, Smokes blundered. But I thought Dal picked the most fun way, and it sort of reminds one of the, it's a Deli quote, but I only know it because Homer mentioned it and one of the Occult fans, of kind of like, where, Homer was watching Deli play, and Deli spent, as he is wont to do, like 5 minutes on like the third to last move of the game. And Homer, and then like played, picked up the card to play the obvious tie, then put it down and played a weird tie. And the game was just a tie. And Homer afterwards was like, "Why would you take 5 minutes on that?" And Deli was like, "They're not going to make a mistake if I don't give them a chance to." And I think all the moves I suggested in 6 and 8 last game were not giving Smokes a chance to make a mistake, and Dow gave him a chance to make a mistake, which I would not have done. I would not have won that game, and he got the win. And I liked how he played the rest of the game. As I was saying last video, I think Dow played those two games really cleanly and well. Um, and yeah, all right. Now this is a horrendous hand for Dalamar. Looks like a strong starter for Smokes. Dalamar can attack it from 2 only, but he is a really bad play against anything going in that direction. Ugh. Ugh. Hard to like find a move. Um, those ones to the left are brutal. Those ones up. I would almost certainly just chuck something in 9. This is, I think, actually a really interesting type of position to solver, because positions where you have, like, there are lots of positions that are kind of, this is clunky and bad, but my hand can generally go in a bunch of directions. And so if I find a move that's not terrible and play well for the rest of the game, I should hold the tie. Like, it's ugly, whatever I do I won't be happy with, but I'm probably not lost off the starter as long as I find something that's not like a sack corner, because often sack corners you are just lost if they capture it. But if I do something else that's not that, I should probably be able to mangle a tie out of it if I play well. But something like this, you're probably just lost unless you find one of like, I mean, I'm not in great guessing mode, but like, how many ties do you have here? There are 40 legal moves. How many of them tie? You know, I think the count is likely to be like 5 or less. That's my guess. I'm not particularly good at level 2. I have been good at guessing recently. I was sent to position. I mean, recently meaning like a month ago. I was sent to position where someone's like, are there any ties here?" And just glancing at it, I was like, "I bet there are 3 ties." And there were 3 ties, and I was pretty proud of that. Even if it had nothing to do with actually evaluating the position, it just looked like the kind of position to me that would have 3 ties. So I'm just going to check how many ties there are. I've input the thing, and my guess is a quite low number. And I am wrong. Somehow 20 moves tie. Did I input this correctly? Yes. You know what the thing is? I underestimate the power of high numbers. All right, I was actually thinking about 1641 and 2. That was a move because I was thinking 6242. If it comes out of the hand, then he has no ups. You can go 4. You're safe there. Maybe that's the way. I really like how Dal's playing it. And this is one of the losing moves here. All right. Well, we won't look any further. I won't like find out what the move is that beats this. But this actually seemed totally reasonable to me, and it's one of the 20 losing moves. Now, 50-50 is, a scary situation. If half the moves lose and there's nothing clear to do, then it's really hard to differentiate good moves from bad. And this was my instinct as well. Though I don't like next 2 plays. My instinct after moves at 9. I should check. Was dropping a card in 9 one of the ways to tie? Um, say the same card in 9. Nope, same card in 9 was losing. What about other cards that were weak? 2731 is a tie. What about 1713? And I didn't really want 3271 because I liked the down power, but that's also an option there. Yeah, so 3 out of 4 of those lost in 9, which suggests 9 was not a very good answer here. So actually, this is interesting. What square is most likely to lead to a tie? I'm gonna say squares with ties in. 4, 7, 2, 5, 8, 6, 9, 4, 3, 6, 4, 7, 6, 4, 2, 6, 2, 8, 3. I think there was a lesson there. I heard 4 and 6 a lot. I think every move in 4 tied, and I think a bunch of moves in 6 did. Yeah, all but one moves in 6 tie. So one thing that tells me is, and this makes sense with Dal's hand, much better side to side than up down, and 6 is the move that makes the game up down. Incidentally, my guess is this is the move that's winning for Smokes. This looks like the most appropriate way to handle it, but I'm not sure. Well, we can look later. But I want to think about 4 and 6. 6 makes sense to me. If you're going to play next to, maybe 4 did make more sense than 8, and then 2. Because we want the game to be, as much as we hate the game being left, we don't want the game to be up either. And if 1641, say, and 4 is met by 6242 and 7, you do have some L options. They're not very appealing though. Ugh, I hate this. All right, my current belief is probably the best thing to do is go 6 after this starter and just force the game into having side to side action. Because that is the place where your 7s can rule. This looks really difficult, but I think this was a really, really bad hand, despite what the solver says. Because one thing you can do with that is it can be that 20 moves tie, but they could all like barely tie if they tie. And the few moves I clicked, it was saying Smokes in reply had basically no losses. And in positions where your move technically ties, but the opponent has no losses, that basically tells you you are under huge pressure and your opponent is going to choose which way to torment you, and you're going to have very narrow paths to a tie. Seems to be usually what it indicates. So, despite the fact that it said 20 ties, 20 losses, which is a bad random, but not a disastrous random. Like the average random, about a third of your moves will lose after a starter. And so half is worse than that, but like by no means what I was guessing, which was one of those like 87% or more moves lose. But so I was wrong there, but also it seems like this was just highly, highly dangerous. Um, yeah, and I think Dal is trying to find tools, but this is you're trying to create some threat against their cards, but Smokes can block the in-between square. Was there any way to create anything in 5? I don't think so, because I was looking at 5 after the starter, and I found no way to set up 4, which maybe was another reason blocking 4 was good here. Yeah, you find... So what's interesting is that means 9 of the 20 ties were in 4 or 6. So in 7 of the squares... in 6 of the squares, so 30 possible moves, there were 11 ties. So if you don't find 4 or 6 instinctively, suddenly your chance of tying goes to like, or your chance of playing a tying move goes to 33% ish. Which I think speaks to the danger here. Yeah, Smokes blocks the in-between square. He does walk into a combo. So Dal can go up 6-4. I assume Smokes takes from 8. Yeah, and 6-2-4-2 sweeps the endgame. It has the key plus too. In the line 17135 35258. If you go 13379 6242 pluses and 6. Brutal. No, it doesn't. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Who knows? Oh, but Smokes is just up 6-4 already. All right, I did count something correct, and then I just made something up. My brain's gone. Yeah. A very, very difficult random here. Oh, he set up this plus. Yeah, God, I'm gone. Ooh. Oof. Alright, evaluated that horribly. Really well done by Dal to hold the tie here. I wonder where Smokes went wrong. But wow, what a hold. So this position was losing after 2. And then Smokes goes 3, and it's lost for Dal. Smokes correctly found the win. Dal goes in 7, and Smokes only has 1 win, and it's not in 4. He has to go 6-2, 4-2, and 5, walking into like a plus in 8 and a plus in 4. Oh, that's hard to find. And then, yeah. Oh, that's a great hold from Dal. Dalamar is playing a very, very good match. This was a very impressive game to hold. Yeah. That's really impressive. I don't even think Smokes... Like, Smokes missed a win, but it's not an easy win to play. And this move, just me glancing at it, was like, oh yeah, that's going to win. And it didn't. Yeah. All right. Some terrible analysis by me. I apologize for that. I am perhaps in even worse shape than I think I am. But I love how Dalamar is playing this match. I don't mind how Sir Smokes is, except for that blunder last game. But what a match by Dalamar. All right, we move on to another... Wait. All right. I totally clicked a game that existed for a moment. Dal must have canceled it. Yeah. All right. They must have got rules wrong or something. Someone put it up closed. And then Dal canceled it. All right, cool. Yeah, great match so far. Like, obviously, like, you run my ratings or whatever, and Smoke's his favorite. But I think Dal is certainly not, in the games I've seen, looked really beatable. Like, both the previous games were just really solid, and this game was, I think, a very tough hold in practice. Yeah, really cool play by him. All right, so we got one more game. After this game, I really got to cook dinner. But I will do one more game. And yeah, I hope we get a decisive result, just because if we don't, I will not continue following, today at least. But I've liked these games quite a bit. It's fun to do some Triple Triad commentary. I haven't done it for like a week or something. So now you might say, or like more than that, you might say, your Triple Triad commentary right now is awful. And yeah, I talked about Fabiano Caruana being a creep. Like, this is not really relevant to Triple Triad, but okay. Dalamar is a starter. I hate thinking about starters on level 2. Every single one of these games I've looked at where someone has a starter, I've just like, yeah, I don't want to think about this. And I haven't. So we may as well continue that tradition. It also means that in that chat I was in with someone asking, what would you do as a starter here? Not gonna think about it. Probably play a weak corner, like 1-6-4, 1 and 9. Good thing I've never played a random level 2 tournament. I have played level 2 in tournaments a few times. One of my most memorable matchups. Because the most memorable things are when stuff goes wrong. As I played a match against Kana, and I think this was the point when I was like starting to hit my peak. Or like I was in my peak, I think. This is, prime 2009-10 period. I think it was 2010. Might have been Ward. Might have been Ward. Now it's hard to remember. I can check that. I will check that. I'm going to say it was in Ward. Anyways, and I was pressing in the games. I thought I was playing well, but also it was a non-combo level 2 rule set. And the margin to tie just seemed so inescapably large. And we ended up not finishing, and he got the activity win. Yeah. Then Seto went on to win the tournament, who, if I had won that match, I would have played in round 2, and that would have been... I've only ever played Seto twice in single-player tournaments. He crushed me in Clan Wars a couple years ago. But we played twice in tournaments, and at that time we hadn't played yet. And at that point in time, I believed him to be the greatest of all time, which I think was a reasonable thing to believe. And I thought after my 2009 run, I was in that conversation, and I was really hyped to get a game versus him. But I couldn't break Kana on level 2. He couldn't break me either. Like I remember so well, like a couple setups where it was just, he only has one tie. And I just kept finding these, like, he has one tie, but there is a tie. And then he would think for 4.5 minutes and then he would play the tie. And from the commentary, like, it was clear he wasn't barely finding the ties, like, he was going to find the ties. It's not like I was going to win those games, but it just felt like, how am I going to win on this no combo level 2 rule set? Like, the cards just aren't powerful enough to set up more sweepers or more traps. I think I'm playing really, really well. I'm getting a lot of pressure, and I just think he's good enough. He's never going to lose as well as I think I'm playing. So I got really frustrated, and that is probably why I rate level 2 as the worst rule set. As the worst level. So I'm not envious of having to play it. Now, of course, this does have combo, which obviously helps, makes there a lot more play. All right, Dal goes for a defensive side. And as Smokes is a down weakness, so this should have decent play. And Smokes is not amazing going up. Yeah, this looks very reasonable. I tend not to like side starters, especially defensive ones. But this looks very legit. So if you're Smokes, the first thing I'd do is look at what's my best setup in 4 or 6. I know I have safety in 7 or 9, but I want to play the square that gives me a follow-up in 4 or 6. And I want to compare, gives me an L follow-up. Is it better to start in 4 or 6, or is it better to start in 7 or 9? Incidentally, if my setup is in 4, then I would go 7. If my setup is in 6, I would consider starting in 6. Because if they go 9, I can then play 7-2-3-2 safely in 7. And sorry, in 1 and 7 and lock in 8. But if my setup's in 4, I don't want to start in 4 because if they go 7, I have safety in 9, but I don't lock in 8 with it. That's what I'd be thinking. You can also, of course, go in 1 or 3. And more combative players than I do, like, I like to find very clear paths that give me, like, yes, I have achieved this and I am setting up that. And players like Seto and Smokes, and Dully's varied. He can obviously be in any category, but Seto and Smokes especially quite often go in 1 or 3 and say, this is going to be a vaguer game. I'm going to leave those squares open and ask, do you want to go in them? If you go in them, well, I have the other one too. And I can sort of pose you these longer term questions that the solver will tell you this gives more ties, but it will also keep tension for longer. This is an interesting thing in chess is weaker players cannot stand leaving tension for very long. If there's like central tension, they will either push past so they don't have to deal with it, or they will take so they don't have to deal with it. And they will not let that tension last very long, even if leaving the tension is significantly more favorable than resolving it. It's just tension is difficult to deal with for all of us to some extent. And the better a player one is, usually the more comfortable one is with tension. But it's still tension. It's still a way to go wrong. And I see in Triple Triad an analogy to sort of direct forcing confrontation, like going in 7 or 9, is saying, I am forcing the action in a way where you do not have to exist with the tension of this, right? There's these paired squares of 7 and 9. When one is taken, the other is likely to be taken in kind of response. And if those are left open, there's this permanent kind of, I now maybe have to hold on to the card I want to put in 7 or 9. I have to constantly think, do I want to play in 7 or 9? But if you play in 7 or 9, I probably don't have to think very much. And I don't have to think very hard. It's not very tense thinking. And yeah, I think there's a real upside to going in 1 or 3. And it is very much not my style, which tends to be to seek clarity. Again, lots of analogies to chess here. I want to talk about Bobby Fischer. I want to talk about Efim Geller. I want to talk about Mikhail Tal. I guess I'll do Mikhail Tal because that's the easiest one to do. He has this wonderful quote about, like, I take my opponent into the deep dark forest where 2 plus 2 equals 5 and only one of us can make it out. Great quote. And some players are really good at doing that in Triple Triad. Now, Triple Triad is a much shorter game. So in chess, if you're in that deep dark forest where suddenly all the rules are turned on their head and you have to figure out everything on the spot and you cannot rely on your understandings or they are very shaky and ephemeral and apply in confusing ways, and you may have to do that for like 10 turns, 15 turns. Triple Triad is short. So the deep dark forest you can bring someone to, they only have to live in that confusion for a couple turns. But as we've seen, a lot of Triple Triad games are decisive, even when played at really high levels. So even that short-term confusion can be very difficult, because one difference is in chess, you can blow it all in a move, but a lot of moves won't be critical to the result of the game. And in Triple Triad, almost every move is. Dal attacks immediately. Well, I like attacking things immediately. So where the main candidate move's going to be. First thing I'm checking is just, is there a plus in 5 for either player? Not because I'm intending to go in 5, but I just want to know if it exists, so I want to know if I have to worry about it. My usual plan is going to be to go in 6. 6 is just often a pleasant square. And then kind of, where's safety? 7, 9, 1. Smokes goes in 7. And he notably, his card in 3 covered 9. Okay, that was a point I didn't notice. His card in 3 set up 6223 to cover 9. So he had a specific plan with this move in 3. It was not just I'm playing a weak card and leaving tension open. It was I am cutting off one of your squares so that I now have a threat to go in the other one. And as I mentioned in a variation we talked about, 7232 is better landing in 7 than it is in 9. And so he played such that Dal doesn't want to go in 9, which makes Smokes going in 7 even more powerful. And he plays it this turn. Remember, no plus walls, so 1641 isn't landing in 4. Why do I have Blue Sky open? I don't know. Let's close that. I probably went silent at some point as I was reading Blue Sky or mumbled even more incoherently than usual. But, you know, we closed it. Distractions are lessened. So 9 does not seem very appealing. But Smokes has to hold on to 6223 if you want to keep 9 covered. Which means could be appealing to go in 1. Because then all of Smoke's captures have a drawback. Smokes could only capture 1, say if it is a 4 down, with 6223, which means Dal now has 9. Smokes can only go 6 with 6223, which means Dal now has 9. And Smokes, if he goes 6, has given up his counterplay to 9, and Dal can now go 9. So that seems possible. I would sort of expect Smokes to go 9 in response to that. That might be pretty good for Smokes. Yeah, that might be winning for Smokes. Alright, so that's probably not the best idea. The next square I tend to look is 6. But I don't think Dal has good sweepers for the left. 6 kind of tries to pair 9 and 5, and if you have a good sweeper for 1 and 4, you're in pretty good shape. But he doesn't. Oh, I like this move by Smokes. This was a nice sequence. This was a nice way to find pressure. Yeah, a very nice game plan of my play next to your starter is in 7. I'm going to play against 9. Which maybe means Dal should have gone himself in 7. But then Smokes gets 9, and like that's pretty pleasant for Smokes. That's not the position Dal wants to aim for. Yeah. Smokes doing the Seto thing of playing a weak corner and immediately getting a lot of play out of it. There is, of course, the question, can Dal just like block 5 or something? Say have 5-2-4-4 as a sweeper for the right. That's guaranteed to at least go even on the right. Is that true? technically no, because if you play like 5-4, 2-4, and 5, which is the card I was intending to, then 6-2, 2-3 is a plus and 6, and you're not going even on the left. Alright, he goes 6. I was skeptical of this. Yeah, Smokes goes 9. And you just don't sweep the left side very well once this pair of squares is gotten rid of. So if Dal goes 5 with 5-4, 2-5, Smokes can go 1 and 1-6-4-1 blanks. And if you go 5 with 1-6-4-1, Smokes can go 4 and 5-4-2-4 blanks. Yeah, but this was a very dangerous position. Val did a tremendous job holding the last very dangerous position. I'm really not sure what he should have done here. I even liked his starter. So I'm skeptical of 2-5-5-2 in 2 at this point. But this went off the rails real quick. So I like how Smokes played this one a lot. I didn't see the first game of the series, but this is my favorite game by far that I've seen from the Smokes side of the game. Though I liked his handling of the first game I caught as well. That one really appealed to me. Alright, so Dal goes in 8, and the solver says Smokes is very safe against this and can choose how to attack. Smokes chooses 3, and Dal has 6 ties and 22 losses. Always interesting to check what kind of squares the ties are in. My instinct at this point was 7, and everything in 7 was losing. So, great instincts by me again. It looks like 2 and 6 were the squares most likely to tie, to play against it immediately. And Dal went in 2, and that was a tying move. And Smokes had this nice idea in 7, and there were 5 ties here. Okay, there was a variety of ties here. Maybe not as scary as I thought. There was a tie in 5, couple ties in 1. Yeah, that was my main instinct, but I hadn't made it work. There was a tie in 6, but I think not the move played. Yeah. Smokes finds the win. Alright, nice match win for Smokes. I really liked how Dal played pretty much every game, and the move in 2 here, which I thought was probably the mistake, was not a mistake at all. It was a very good move. It was the move in 6, but in a kind of vague position where there wasn't a clear path. Yeah, Smokes does such a good job of making things tricky. Nice plan by Smokes here. Nice game by Smokes. And he will advance in SE Kefka.